Here we are with a little 15-week recap with Eden. I'm gonna be honest, it was a really hard week, probably one of the hardest weeks I've had with her so far. I had a couple days where I felt her kicking a ton and it was just wonderful, and then it kind of felt like I wasn't really feeling her kick at all, and it was just in the back of my mind, and I was just trying to calm how I was feeling and not spiral or anything, but the fear started to build as I didn't feel her kicking as much. And it's hard to gauge because last time when I was first pregnant with Malachi, I'd never felt a baby kicking me before, so he could have been kicking very early on and I couldn't have been able to tell. I remember around 15 weeks I felt him for the first time, and it was just like a isolated thing. But then I really started to feel him kick around week 18. And this time around it's been earlier, but I try to keep into account I didn't really feel Malachi until a little bit later, and that's okay if I don't feel her fully. She's still so small and she can really bounce around in there a lot without me feeling it necessarily. And so I was trying to take that into account, but I was really struggling, and I was telling Paul about it. And one night I woke up and I couldn't fall back asleep, and I was really having some bad thoughts, and I was reading my Bible and I was praying, and I was like, I need to get back to sleep. I need to just help myself by sleeping. And at that point, I think I woke up at 3, and then Paul came in to get ready to take off for his flight, and that was around 6:30 or so, and I was telling him that I was having some fears, and I was just trying not to give in to them and let them consume me, acknowledge them, but not focus on them so much where it's just destroying me mentally. And we were talking about it, and then I tried to go back to sleep, and then I finally was able to, and then I just had this horrific dream that I miscarried her, that I was feeling her, I was feeling crampy like I had right when I was in labor with Malachi, and I had a bloody show, it was my mucus plug. And I remember calling my midwife in the dream, and she was like, there's nothing we can do. And I was just horrified. And I remember it was so vivid that I woke up in and my heart was beating super fast. And I reached down, between my legs to feel if I was bleeding, because I was convinced that was true. It was real life. And I wasn't, but I tried to say that was just a dream. It was just a dream. It's because my fears are coming to the front, and so I tried to manage it throughout the day, but I just kept having these really, really dark thoughts, what if she's just dead inside me? What if she's just gone and she's not here anymore? And I remember looking at Malachi's urn at one point during the day, and I was just like, I wonder how small her urn would look next to his. And these just horrible thoughts, dark thoughts. And there was nothing I can do to push them away or fight them or fight with hope. I just almost felt paralyzed, she's probably gone, even though I really didn't have anything to go off of other than I hadn't really felt her kick that much or at all in a couple days, and I had this horrible dream. And I just was struggling later and later into the day, and my dad was finally just like, let's text Renelle, let's text your midwife, let's text her and see if you can just go hear her heartbeat so we can, feel rest assured about it. And I was going back and forth about if I even wanted to go, because we're not going to hear anything, and then it's just going to be devastation at its finest, just like it was last time. The worst will happen and whatever. And I regardless, I texted her after, of course, I had a couple other friends who told me that it was probably a good idea. And so I texted her and was like, hey, can I come over tomorrow? Here's the deal. I've had a really bad dream, and I'm just spiraling. I'm not doing well. I think maybe hearing her heartbeat would just help me. And she was like, come over tonight. I come over in an hour, we can listen to her heartbeat and everything. And I was just terrified. I remember feeling so paralyzed, like how I felt with Malachi in the hospital before he died, where this sense of fear and anxiety and dread. And my dad took us to my midwife's house, and I was just like so anxious and so jittery. It just felt so toxic in my body, and I was just like trying to breathe and trying to pray, but I was already just like angry with God, like, are you going to do this to me again? Like, I bet you have. Like, I was fully convinced that like we weren't going to hear a heartbeat. And you know, I lie down, she puts the Doppler on, and we just hear her, you know, we hear Aiden's strong heartbeat, and I start crying, and I'm just like, God, I feel like a crazy person, but I'm also just struggling. And we talked for a little while, and my midwife was like, you know, I've been doing topical progesterone since I ovulated before we conceived Eden. And she was like, I know you said you were kind of going to wean yourself off at 15 weeks. I think we should keep it. I think we should actually, if you have any extra oral progesterone for you to take, I think we probably should start to lean into that more. And I had some progesterone that wasn't expired, that was left over from when I took it with Malachi from 28 weeks to 36 weeks. And so she was like, do you want to get your blood drawn? We could literally look at your levels right now. Like, I could send it in, and we could find out in a couple of days how your progesterone is. And so we did that blood work, and I felt very reassured and everything like that, and sent it in. And I do have some low progesterone, so I started taking the oral 200 milligrams to help bring my levels up to like what's good for a second try. And so I think maybe that was the lesson in all of it, or like the blessing, is that even though it was really scary, like we got a really big benefit. Like we saw, like I had low progesterone, so I'm going to raise it now. It's a big test of faith. And I feel like every day being pregnant after loss and after everything that's happened with Malachi is really a test of faith. And all you can do is go from one moment to the next sometimes. But it can be really dark, and it can be really messy. And I wish that I had like the gumption and faith that I had before, where I could boldly approach the throne and believe that God would do miracles for me. And he has. He gave me my son. He gave us time with him. And then he went to be home in heaven. That's a miracle. Maybe not the one we wanted. And my daughter is a miracle. No matter how long I get to have her, she will always be a miracle. Her life is a miracle. But sometimes it's hard for me to believe that like good can happen to us still. And I just wish I had more of that belief in his word and what it says about his promises, because I feel so confused still after everything that happened with Malachi. And you know, I was exhausted for the rest of the week because of how hard that whole experience was, mentally and physically. I was tired and overwhelmed and exhausted and emotional, and I had some really good healing breakthrough in therapy as well, but it's definitely a step-by-step, day-by-day kind of thing. And I felt her kick, you know, a couple times, you know, a handful of times since we heard her heartbeat. And like, I just have to rest and trust that like everything's gonna be okay no matter what, and that's all I can do. So here's to 15 weeks. We're living, we're surviving with my baby girl in my belly, and I'm gonna soak it up for as long as I possibly can.
I wish that I could cough out my emotions in a healthy manner, just become the right person that actually matters.